Just over 1 year ago today, I created my YouTube channel and gained 1 subscriber. But now, we've reached 1,000. Oh, you must have clicked on this video to see a Sith Trooper helmet build. Well, more on this 1,000 subscriber special later. Let's get on to the build. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name's Ryan, or RJR Productions, and today I'll be showing you how I made my Sith Trooper helmet from The Rise of Skywalker. Now, let's get into that video. The dome of this helmet started out as a flat sheet of cardboard, and I just cut a 26-inch length piece, and it was about 2 inches tall. And that made the base brim around the helmet dome. And then I cut out a strip that goes across the top. And then after that was glued on, I just made sure that the sizing was right. So if you looked at it from a side profile, it wasn't super shallow or super tall. It was just a perfect curve. And then I just did some smaller strips on either sides. I've gone over this dome making technique in many of my other videos. And then I just added a support on the inside just so it stays in that nice circular shape. If you didn't add this, it's not necessary. It just keeps the dome from getting wonky and lopsided. After I had the dome roughly fleshed out, I worked on the sides of the helmet, so those were just short little pieces of cardboard. In retrospect, I probably could have made one piece go from right about the temple, wrap all the way around to the other side, but I ended up doing 2 pieces. So I did one short piece about 2 inches long, and then to that I glued another piece kind of at an angle coming down, and that really helped give that side profile look of just it flaring out at the sides. And then I started adding the lower jaw pieces, and these were just straight pieces of cardboard with an angle cut at the very edge that just came towards together. And at the chin, I just cut out this one very particular shape. So just make sure to look at a really good reference image so you know what you're doing. And then I just added all the details to the chin, like how it builds up in the middle and it kind of has all the angular bits around it. Again, it's very helpful to look at a reference image. And then I kind of fleshed in the face. This part doesn't really matter since it's going to be covered up by those 2 cheek panels. I just held up a piece of cardboard behind it, traced out the rough shape, cut it out, and then glued it on. And I did the same for both sides. And then I also added this little detail around the eye, so it was just a piece of thin cardboard that I cut out just to outline the eye. And then for the 2 pieces that go where the cheeks are, I just looked at a reference image, kind of filled out where all the details are. And now, one big thing that I've been avoiding so far for this helmet were the lines. And I knew this was going to be a big pain, but one thing that I found out is I have this type of cardboard. It's called Priority Mail. You can get them basically at any post office. And if you peel off the top layer of cardboard, then you get a nice set of corrugated lines. And these ones are a lot smaller than the other ones. So I just thought that this would be a good option for where all the flat lines are. And then once I was happy with that, I just filled in with pieces of cardboard all the way around the back. And then I realized that there actually needs to be a lip at the bottom edge, so I just took my time and made sure to do that. It's basically just 1/2 inch all the way around the base, and it was pretty easy. I just made sure to cut the pieces in little curves, so what I would do is I would hold up a piece of cardboard and cut out the parts to where it would line up pretty well. It doesn't matter if there's a gap because it's going to be filled in the spackling stage anyways. This was just the finishing touches on the helmet, and then I started working on the dome, which I'll go over in this next shot. Now that I have 1/4 of the dome all done, I'm just going to cut to when the whole thing is finished. This is what one of the quarter section pieces looks like flat, and this is what it looks like glued together. This is what the helmet looked like so far. As you can see, no lines on the top. I'll get to that after the spackling stage. The spackling stage is pretty simple. I won't go over it in this video. I have many other videos showing how to do it. But what I will go over in this video is, some of you may know, I have just recently hit 1,000 subscribers. And what I want to do to commemorate this event is, I want to do a 1,000 subscriber special. So I will be hosting a Q&A video once I get enough questions asked in the comments of this video. So that's what I want you guys to do, is just ask me any questions you have in the comments, and I'll post a separate video just explaining the answers to them. Alright, back to the build. Now that I've gone over the whole helmet with the spackle and covered all the gaps, I'm going to sand it with some 150 grit and then later on 220 grit sandpaper just to get off all the high spots. And then I can prime it with some filler primer. Once I had the whole helmet spackled, I sanded everything down, with a 220 grit sandpaper, so now it's real smooth. And then I primed it with some filler primer. And after that set, I painted the face part with some gloss black paint, and that's going to act as a base because the two panels right here that I painted red will be covering that. So these would just sit kind of like that. So now what I need to do is go through the dreaded process of attaching all of these lines throughout the whole thing. So I'm going to use this same type of cardboard for the ones that kind of go here and run along the sides on the back. But for the ones that go across the top, that's going to be a bigger challenge. So what I'm going to do is take some cereal box cardboard, cut it up into very thin strips, and just glue it at the base and then wrap it all the way around to the base of the helmet. And then at the base, another strip will be covering that. So I'll update you guys when that's done.
So right now I'm just experimenting with what to do with the top. So I already attached this one piece in the middle and these pieces on the sides. And I can already tell this is going to be a big pain because there's like 10 on each side. So that means this is going to have to continue till about here. I'm going to have to do the same thing on the other side again. And then these pieces of cardboard don't even go to the back. So I'm going to have to do them all again except just a little bit shorter. So if you're going to make this, just be prepared that it's a big chore. So I'll cut to the time lapse of me doing the rest of it.
Now I know the real prop has 20 lines on each side of the dome, but I figured that's going to be a huge pain to do. Even this was already a huge pain. So I figured I'll just do 10 on each side. It'll be so much simpler because each of these pieces is already less than 1/8 of an inch thick. So making them half that would just be almost impossible. So what I did is I glued these pieces from front to back on the helmet, and then to cover up that back spot, you know how it didn't go all the way to the edge, I just took some more pieces of the cereal box cardboard, cut super thin, and just glued them along that. And I did this on both sides, and just to tell you guys, this took me about an hour, 2 hours to do one side. So I was basically doing like a marathon here. It took me so long. I probably won't want to make one of these again. Again, it was just a big chore. Something that could help this process is like a metal ruler that you can hold your X-Acto knife and just cut the strips against. That could probably be very easy. And also one thing I was finding out is, as you'll see later in the video, the pieces of cardboard weren't exactly sticking to the filler primer. So what I had to do is, when I painted it, some of the pieces popped up. So just at the very end, touching up, I just glued the pieces back down. And I made sure to do this on both of the sides because both strips popped up. And then once I had 10 strips on each side, I got to the fun stage of doing all the details. So what I did is I cut out about 3/4 inch strip that goes from temple to temple, right where those side details are cut out, and I just glued that on. It has a little seam down the middle. And then right where the ears are, there's a piece that goes on over that. So that was very easy. And there's also a piece that goes down on the base of the back of the head. And that's the same tactic as the front, where it's just a piece of cardboard with the top peeled off. And I made sure not to leave any of the stray bits there because that made it look really messy. And the back was already pretty messy, as you'll see later. And I cut out this shape at the side because it's there on the prop, and I just used that as a template for the side piece that goes over that front piece. And this got glued down, and then there's a tiny detail on top of it, and also a tiny detail below it. And this is on both sides. This is a symmetrical helmet. So I just made sure to take my time, and this is the part of the prop making that I actually enjoy. These fun details. They're super easy, and they look pretty good in the final build. There's a little kind of sideways B shape at the sides, so I just made sure to include those. And then here's the part of me using that priority mail cardboard that you can get at any post office. And I just used this. I ripped off the top piece and put it on the sides, right where the cheeks are. And then I put another piece kind of angling in towards the chin, but it doesn't cover the whole thing. And this is the same on both sides. And then I had these tiny little details on each side and the detail at the back.
Now I have all this junk on here, so I have all the strips at the top. I did 10 on each side. Then I have this middle strip, and they all run all the way to the back. Then I have this one strip with a little slit in the middle that wraps around and gets covered by these two pieces that cover these side details with a little detail on top of them. And then we have this tiny detail right here. This is on both sides. We have a little strip of cardboard here. And then I used the same smaller cardboard like this for this piece. So I just took off the top layer to get those lines. And I have the lines there, and then the same type of lines on the front. So now the next step is to mask off where all the black is going to stay. It's basically just going to mask kind of here all the way around this edge like this. And then I'll be ready to paint the whole thing the same red color, which was an apple red.
Here was one final test fit of those faceplate pieces on. Now I'll show you where I masked off the black.
Now I've finished masking off where all the black is going to stay with these little strips on the sides right here. Now I can go ahead and paint everything else the same red color.
The painting stage is pretty simple, just don't go too thick and try to avoid some drips. I had to do several coats to cover the cardboard texture.
For the last step, I just have to glue these faceplate panels on, just like this, with a little bit of gap at the bottom. So that's what I'll do right now.
So you might have seen in that last shot that there are these gaping holes right where the cheeks are. So I'll show you what those were.
As you can see, there are these little details on the sides. So I just had to cut those out, and since I forgot to paint an extra sheet, I thought that would be the most appropriate. Cutting those channels out on the inside, since you can't even see them because the faceplate's blocking it. And here is the helmet with those two pieces on, and with the visor nearly attached, as you can see it in there. This is what it looks like from the inside. I haven't attached it fully yet, just on the edges it's not attached yet. But other than that, this helmet is done. So now, I'll cut to the outro.
And that is how I made my Sith Trooper helmet. And I cannot thank you guys enough for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. I really only thought I'd get to maybe 100 in my first year, but by the end of last year I was already at 500, and now by the beginning of March, the date today is March 2nd, I already have 1,000. So thank you guys for that. My next prop will be another prequel era clone helmet, and if you have any suggestions on what I should make after that, please leave them in the comments down below. This has been RJR Productions, signing off, till next time.